On the national scene, there's a novel and exciting approach to creating vegetable plants that thrive even under the toughest conditions. I'll show you next.
It tastes almost like a sun sugar, but not.
Sometimes what's showcased here isn't completely brand new, but rather something reborn or reinterpreted for a new market. That's the case with the Mighty Mato. This is one of our little grafted tomatoes. Now, grafting has been around pretty much as long as people have been growing food. Usually, you do it with fruit trees. You find one tree that has fruit you really like, and another that has really good roots. Maybe they're really vigorous or they're resistant to some kind of disease. You cut them apart, switch them up, put them back together, and voila, you've got a grafted tree. Okay, not really that easy, but you get the picture. Grafted vegetables go all the way back to ancient China. About 25 years ago, European farmers started experimenting with grafting vegetables, especially tomatoes and eggplants, as a way to reduce pesticide and fertilizer use. Just a few years ago, Americans were introduced to Mighty Mato, grafted tomatoes that seem to be taking the gardening world by storm. John Bagnasco of Supernatural Vegetables explains.
Nan, I think this is one of the most exciting things to hit the gardening industry in probably 30 years. And what it is basically is taking a disease-resistant rootstock and then grafting a great tasting variety onto it. And you know how great the heirloom tomatoes are for flavor. The flavors are fantastic, but unfortunately they've not been bred to resist soil diseases like verticillium wilt, fusarium blight, nematodes. But now by using a rootstock that's resistant to all those, we can graft an heirloom onto it, and anyone in the country can grow an heirloom anywhere.
For a home gardener, how does the cost of a grafted tomato compare to just buying a regular tomato seedling?
Well, some of it should be obvious because instead of one tomato, you have two. You have the rootstock and the scion, the top variety, so that's already double the cost. And then you have to have someone graft them, put them together, so you have labor involved. And then you have 2 weeks healing time, so that's 2 weeks longer production time for the plug. So all that adds up to the cost, but if you're guaranteed a minimum of double the crop, grafting's the way to go. There were over 1 billion tomatoes grafted worldwide last year, and the U.S. is just coming into that market.
So what is the history of grafted tomatoes?
Well, it's not that old. But in the U.S., way back to the early 1900s, Luther Burbank was really the first one to graft. He grafted a potato top onto a tomato rootstock. And it worked, but he realized this is totally worthless. So he reversed the graft and put the potatoes on the bottom and the tomatoes on the top, and then that did work. And we're still playing around with that because we think it's a fun thing to do. You know, can you imagine having one of those hanging basket tomatoes where you reach in the top and pull out a potato and the tomatoes are down below? But that's something for the future.
Now you're dreaming.
But dreaming is what got us to where we are today, right?
Caring for a grafted tomato is just the same as caring for any other tomato. The best part is that these plants are extremely vigorous. They produce so well that if you grow grafted tomatoes, you may need fewer plants to get just as many, if not more tomatoes than you ever have before.
The one thing you have to remember is not to plant the tomato deep. We've been taught our whole lives to bury tomatoes deep because they root all up and down the stem. But if you do that with a grafted tomato and you bury the graft, the top part will root, and now you have a conduit for disease to come up into the tomato. And we don't want that. So you plant the tomato just at the level it is when you buy it in the store, no deeper.
So it's just like any other plant.
Except then also don't buy your tomato cage at your local home improvement center. You need a big cage or a big stake because the plants are not only double the production but double the size.
What other vegetables are grafted?
Well, this year we've introduced grafted peppers and eggplant. And the eggplant responds to grafting the same way, even better than tomatoes. Still working with rootstocks. Even though we're selling grafted peppers, we only get about a 30% increase in production. We get all the disease resistance, but only 30% more peppers, and we're trying to increase that.
So I see cherries, I see plums, I see slicers. You got everything?
We do. We've got paste tomatoes. We've got new classes of tomatoes like the indigo tomatoes, which are coming out of Oregon State. And the exciting thing about it is it's loaded with anthocyanins, which are the same antioxidants that are in blueberries. It's now in a tomato. So besides the lycopene, you get these high anthocyanin levels, and you've got one of the healthiest plants on earth.
There are more than 3 dozen varieties of Mighty Matos sold at nurseries in San Diego County, in fact, across the U.S. and Canada. Their disease resistance, their vigor, and their delicious flavor might just change the way you grow vegetables. That's good. Next, we'll visit a home vegetable garden done on a big scale. Don't go away.